anymore. DanGryder, probable cause. It's Sunday night, October 5, 2025. Greetings. I'm glad to have you with us. This is my second Sunday night in a row. Glad to have you back with us. Thinking about doing a little bit more of these, a little bit more often, and reviving my Sunday night program, maybe time permitting if able. I appreciate you guys jumping in here last week. Tonight's video, I'm going to try to get uploaded and on the air in time for 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. It'll be a little bit different of a video because I'm not going to concentrate quite so much on all the GA accidents. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview on where we are. And mostly we have to talk about the AOPA, Richard McSpaden fatal crash. You know, the DTSB report has just come out. I got a lot of data to include here. I'm not going to include all of it, but I did make a site visit. I did spend a tremendous amount of time and effort and travel on this case. I have some things of note that I'm going to put in that towards the end of this video. We'll get taken care of a few little housekeeping items here first. First of all, that was Sarah Guthrie. That's Woody Guthrow's son, Arlo Guthrie's daughter, Sarah. She and I and Brian were playing at Eddie's Attic. We weren't actually playing there. They were playing there. I was the guest there of their appearance, and we got to play before the show started. That's us out front playing a Arlo Guthrie song called I Ain't Got No Home in This World Anymore. You might remember it. I'll include the entire guitar part of that thing that we recorded that night at the very end of this video as an outro. If you want to stick around and see it, it's got some cool guitar parts on there from my friend Brian at the very, very end of that. For tonight, welcome back. Thinking about doing a little bit more Sunday night stuff. Thank you for the encouragement and support. I especially want to say thank you to each and every one of you that watched last Sunday night's video concerning my dad. We just got back from the funeral, the visitation and the funeral, and everything was fine out there. I have to say I am extremely thankful and impressed from the U.S. military who came out and did the full military honors, including the gun salute and the entire thing, the flag. That presentation out there at my dad's service was nothing less than spectacular. I don't have any video of it because we didn't record, but I'll never forget it. And I want to say thank you to the U.S. military regiment that provided that. I'm not even sure how all that works. I just am, all the family is very thankful for your turnout, your support. We had a ton of people show up for the visitation and funeral. A lot of people came out from Atlanta and our surrounding areas to support us and be there for visitation and funeral. Everything went totally fine, and we are back from that. I appreciate your comments in last week's video concerning my dad. 96 and a half. He lived a long, happy life. He was not a pilot, but he was a teacher, and he was a little bit bullheaded, hard-headed, and full of principle. And you may recognize some of that stuff in his son, Dan. That's probably where I got it from. Interesting to spend my last final days and months with my dad out in Arkansas. Here's a picture of me with the casket just before we went to the service here, and that's all I'll say about it, other than thank you to each one of you that remembered us during that special time. Now let's get on to tonight's stuff. We're back on aviation topics. We got quite a few to talk about here. Let's get started. First topic, first of all, right off the bat, remember our General Aviation Safety Summit, here's the graphic for it, is in Orlando, January 2, 3, 4. We still have the early bird pricing going on. We're holding that pricing until it fills up because that is our at-cost price. That's $11.95 to attend. That includes your room and board, meals, entertainment, educational content, alcohol, entertainment, the entire thing. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can't even really buy a hotel room and meals in Orlando at that time of the year for this price, let alone get to attend a convention. If you want to bring your kids, it's a nice hotel, convention area, swimming pool, courtyard, all that stuff that you want to do. If your family wants to go swimming while you attend the aviation portion of it, you do what's best for you. Please consider attending that. That's $11.95 tax deductible to DTSB as our very first prototype beta test General Aviation Safety Summit. We're going to be going over the data for 2025, our general aviation fatals for the United States. where we did good, where we did bad, and what we need to improve on for next year. I can already tell you it's going to be close. Let's look at the data here. I'll put it up on the screen here. This is where we're at currently in the United States. We're at 278 days complete for this year, 112 fatals. Our accident rate is 12.254 fatal accidents per month. We're trying to get down under 12.0. 12.0 is 144 for the year, so we've got still a few fatals that we can fit in this year. I hope it's not you. I hope it's not a DMMS fatal. I certainly hope it's not an impossible turn fatal. We're going to go over a little bit of that, but the mistakes that are still killing us and taking pilots, taking individuals, taking families, and losing airframes are pretty much all the same ones over and over and over again. I'm going to illustrate this with the AOPA stuff. Do not buy off on the AOPA concept of attempting to turn around, and you can do the 45-degree bank at 600 feet off the ground. You can't do the 45-degree bank and make it back to the runway. They're saying it might be possible for some pilots in some situations. I'm saying go straight ahead. If you don't even know, each situation is different. You don't know each situation because it's going to get handed to you. Each one is an experiment. Take the sure shot, wings level, straight ahead, put it in a field. In McSpaden's case, if he would have gone gear up straight ahead and put it in the field that I'm about to show you here, they would be alive today and nobody would have ever known the difference. It's the attempt to turn at 53 knots and 45 degrees bank that McSpaden was attempting to pull off that killed them. The airplane definitely stalled. The wing could not support that turning load, and they almost made it back to the runway, but they did not. That's the data for this. I want you to take a look at DTSB. Here it is on the screen here. DTSB is our data set, and you can click on this button here. You can sort the data. This is all general aviation fatals 2024 and 2025. The data starts January 1 of 2024 and goes forward. Remember, on the 28th of this month, we had the Cessna 340, another impossible turn. This is a combination of both impossible turn and loss of speed awareness, both at the same time. An open baggage door. This guy out in Arizona makes a takeoff, has an open baggage door, and attempts to return to the same runway, loses speed, stalls it, and hits just short of the runway. Big fireball, 2 people dead, totally unnecessary. He could have gone anywhere, gear up anywhere, and he'd be alive today. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Here's one from Oregon just a few days ago on the 30th. Out in Battleground, Oregon, DB Cooper territory. This is Battleground, Oregon. A 172 made numerous passes at this little tiny grass strip, kind of oriented a little bit northwest, southeast. Tried to get in and ended up in a fireball. 1 person on board. The data is on the DTSB website if you want to read about it. I got 1 DTSB volunteer that agreed to go outside and shoot some video. I'm going to show that video. This is from my friend Dan Ruff, DTSB investigator Dan Ruff. He does a rough job. He's a rough guy, and he shoots rough video. Here it is.
This is looking to the east across the runway, and now looking north. And then right on the other side of where I just was, I see this. So I'm thinking he hit that tree right there and kind of flipped around and went, sorry Dan, I'm not that good with a camera, and went right over that tree and then down into the ground right over there.
You know, still not a word out of EAA in any way at all. The order, if you remember from last week, I sent them a letter well in advance of Oshkosh. They didn't like it. I made a video outlining what my letter was and why it's important. After that, I got a letter from EAA Legal, said, shut up or we're going to sue you. Don't make any more videos. So I went several weeks, namely 8 weeks, didn't make any more videos. Still nothing out of EAA. Remember, this is EAA tactic. They will either ban you or sue you if you say anything wrong about them. They're not open to open conversation, constructive criticism. Let's work together and find a solution. They simply want to ban you and sue you if you even think about saying anything to the contrary over what they're wanting to do. I hope they do sue me, because they're going to tell me that I can't publish the fact that I got sued. Oh, yes, I can, and I will publish it. I think if they sued me, that would be the fodder that I need to show exactly how EAA operates. Dan won't shut up, so they're going to sue me to get me to shut up. I hope that they do, and we'll see how that comes out. I proposed to them in my letter, let's shake hands, work together, figure out what this is, and figure out what we could do to make this better. The whole concept, rock your wings, unstabilized approach, land on a dot, 45-degree bank, 30 to 45-degree bank, short final at 200 feet is insane. Here's a Baron video from last year, 2025, shot by Baron pilot, Skyline Baron pilot, if you want to look at her video. Here's a section of it. This is insane, and this is what they're requiring you to do. Rock your wings, unstabilized approach, extremely low downwind, extremely low base, extremely tight turn, base to final at a low speed to land on a dot. Like for what? Check this video out.
And Baron on the downwind, now we're with you.
500.
27.
Clear to land. Make the base turn. Beam the numbers. Runway 27. Green dot, clear to land.
Green dot, clear to
400.
land.
300.
Red, blue, green.
200. 100. 200. 100.
'Last week I talked about my friend CJ, the female pilot, the Comanche lady that's in charge of all the Comanches. There's a lot of Comanches around the country. The Comanche Pilots Association, they all get together to fly their single and twin Comanches. They like to fly together and camp together and all that stuff, which is totally great. CJ does a great job in her administrative role, helping with research, ADs, mechanical things on the very unique Piper Comanche world. CJ was involved in an accident last year, 2025, up at Oshkosh. She landed, taxied her airplane in an area that was only 64 feet wide. It was supposed to be 70. She was following an EAA marshaller. Her airplane actually contacted two other airplanes at the same time, trying to fit into a spot where she could not fit, keeping her eyes on the marshaller, who was instructing her to keep on going forward, and she did. Now, the interesting thing off of this is, after the accident, it's all being worked on, things like that. EAA has not lifted a finger to change anything or help anyone or do anything. There's been no EAA involvement that I'm aware of. But marching out to the scene the next morning was the FAA. 4 guys from FAA came out to the scene and handed CJ a letter. I'm going to show you. This is not the actual one, but this is one exactly like it. I'll put it on the screen. These are very, very common. You can't get these on the internet, and this is not an FAA form, but I'm going to read it to you, and I'll put it on the screen here. This says, "Greetings, Airmen. This event is being investigated by the NTSB and the FAA. No movement unless deemed necessary by NTSB or FAA. Repair, collection, overhaul, or salvage work may be performed on the aircraft until after it has been released back to the owner by the NTSB following the completion of the investigation, or until such a time when the NTSB determines they don't require control of the aircraft for further investigative purposes. Ownership of the aircraft remains with the owner pilot. However, control of the aircraft is transferred to the NTSB post-event and will remain with the NTSB until the investigation is completed." Now, FAA, 4 guys in suits, hand her this letter. This is your absolute legal authority. Don't touch this airplane. Don't move it. How long was her airplane actually technically impounded? Could not be moved, could not be touched. 10 days. This thing happened on July 1. She got her letter on July 22. Her aircraft was not released until August 5. 10 full days. She sweated this thing. What's she going to do? AirVenture is long over, and she is still not out of there. She finally used AOPA legal services, or somebody at some legal services. She got legal services to get in contact with FAA. FAA, NTSB never did release her aircraft. She got an email from somebody in legal services, or rather, she got some kind of a contact from somebody who said FAA or NTSB does say it's okay to go. Isn't that crazy? They impound her airplane for 10 days and then don't have the courtesy to call and tell her, hey, it's okay, everything's fine. The airplane incident that she was involved in does not even meet the definitions of 830, and I'll put them on the screen here for you. You have to, in order to be impounded and held as an accident, it has to meet these criteria. Hers did not even come close in any way. FAA had no right to hand her that piece of paper, and you cannot impound an airplane for these conditions. I think the whole thing is completely preposterous. I want to talk about one other thing concerning EAA. I want you to Google this. Just remember, a few years ago, Patty Wagstaff was on the grounds up there, I think 2007 or 2008. She was in a car at her airplane to get her sunglasses out when she got approached by EAA security, who was not happy with her. I have the whole entire story on that. She ended up, while wearing a black cocktail dress, she was on her way to an evening function, forced nose down into the ground with a knee in her back, face down in the dirt by EAA security. They called Winnebago sheriffs. And yes, Patty was not happy with the whole thing. Now she ends up in handcuffs. This is Patty Wagstaff. She ends up in handcuffs and in the Winnebago County Jail for 2 days over this entire event. The Winnebago County sheriffs, EAA security, the whole thing was completely ridiculous. It keeps on talking about Patty being accidentally out on a runway. Not true. She was in the place where she parked her airplane in the Warbird Performer section, someplace up there in the North 40. She had a pass, an armband, and VIP credentials. She was entirely capable of driving out there to that. They said that she had been drinking. Probably true. Guess what? Everybody at EAA, everybody have you seen the state bird for Wisconsin? It's got alcohol in its veins. They drink beer, they drink. That's what they do up there. Everybody driving around. You go to these places, they say no alcohol. It's alcohol. Yes, Patty had a glass of wine before she drove her car. I think it's pretty normal. I think Patty's probably pretty capable of navigating her vehicle on grass to get to her runway like she's done years and years and years in a row. I'm not advocating for drunk driving, but the fact that she ended up face down in the dirt on EAA, what did they do to help Patty, their star performer? What did EAA do to help her? Nothing. Welcome to the EAA.
The NTSB released its final report on the fatal crash of a Cessna 177RG at the Lake Placid Airport in New York, which occurred 2 years ago on October 1st, 2023. This accident tragically claimed the lives of Russ Francis and Richard McSpaden.
Now I've got to jump over to the AOPA, Richard McSpaden, fatal plane crash, Lake Placid. This was October 1 of 2023. Just 2 days later, I'm at Eddie's attic playing music with Sarah Guthrie. I got the phone call that night, October 1, just 2 hours after the crash, from somebody who was there at the scene. Did not go to the crash site, but somebody called me and told me. I'll never forget where I was and what I was doing when I got that phone call. McSpaden is dead. Yes, he's dead. And guess what he was doing? He took off in his airplane, had some kind of a problem, attempted to turn around to the opposite runway, crashed short of the field. McSpaden is dead in a Cessna Cardinal. Dave VFR, McSpaden, AOPA Air Safety is dead. Could it be McSpaden died from the impossible turn? This is the entire thing that I've been battling the whole time. Richard McSpaden and I have gone head-to-head over this since the video series came out several years ago. And Mike Ginter talks about this in his video. AOPA Air Safety Institute just released a video. And Mike Ginter talks about the comments that was generated when Richard McSpaden generated this video.
Following release of that video 4 years ago, we observed many comments on social media that were critical of our analysis of the 180-degree turnback.
The problem I have with this video is that McSpaden is advocating for a 45-degree angle of bank close to the ground. Wrong. Do not do it. 30 degrees angle of bank is the most that you can ever do unless you're up high with a parachute or doing something like that. If you're below 1,000 feet in the traffic pattern, 30 degrees angle of bank is the absolute most. There is no need to crank your airplane over 45 degrees angle of bank. Let's listen to McSpaden justify his theory.
So we thought, and I still believe, based on this scenario here, that 45 degrees of bank is about right. There's enough safety margin in there. It's about that middle line in there, so it doesn't get you back as fast, but it gets you back faster than, say, a 30-degree bank, which is on the outside of that. With me, a very proficient pilot with a lot of experience and a lot of experience in that Super Cub, when the conditions are like that, the turnback is a very good option for me. With me, a very proficient pilot with a lot of experience and a lot of experience in that Super Cub, when the conditions are like that, the turnback is a very good option for me.
You know, AOPA has a brand new president, Darren Pleasance. Darren called me first of the year when he was a new president, and I recorded his phone call. The last guy, Mark Baker, was somehow politely excused from duty. I don't know why, I don't have the specifics, but after enough commotion over his $3.2 million per year annual salary and the equipment that they're flying around in, Mark Baker is gone. Darren Pleasance is the new guy, a pleasant guy. He's the new guy. Here's his phone call, and the first thing I had to ask him, of course I didn't get into salary or benefits, seems to me like Darren lives in Bend, Oregon, on the West Coast. He's extremely tied up with 2 kids, a horse farm, airplanes, and a private business on the West Coast. How is this going to work? How is Darren going to run AOPA and be in Frederick, Maryland? I can tell you one thing, his wife is not moving to Frederick. His kids aren't moving to Frederick, and his horses are not moving to Frederick. Let's listen to my phone call with Darren Pleasance.
Called, and as you know, I'm new into the role and drinking from the fire hose, but enjoying the journey, and happy to reach out and connect.
I appreciate that, sir. I guess you're on the West Coast?
I am. Well, I have a place in Frederick, so I'm spending most of my time in Frederick, but today you're correct. I'm out in Oregon today.
Yeah, and how are you getting back and forth between the West Coast and Frederick? That's a long ways.
Yeah, United Airlines. So they've got a good flight. I go from here to Denver to Dulles or BWI, whichever makes the most sense, depending on the price and the schedule.
Yeah, well, that's great. I guess the wife and the horses are coming with you pretty soon too, huh?
Exactly. That's the idea. And we still got a nice farm out here too. So they've got clients that work, that use the facilities for their horses. So we're not going to sell the place here. It's pretty darn nice.
So it seems like we now have an AOPA president that is president via Zoom, working remote on occasion when he wants to, still commanding a big salary and buying first-class United Airlines tickets to get back and forth to Frederick every now and then when necessary. Did AOPA buy him a house or an apartment? Probably. There's where your dues money is going. Is this an efficient use of dues money? Is Darren's best primary emphasis on the heart of GA and helping GA, or is he mostly interested in an additional income to help feed those horses? We don't know. In my personal opinion, I think Darren is probably in Oregon most of the time, commuting to Frederick when necessary, and still commanding a very nice paycheck. Doesn't sit right with me. I hope you'll tell me what your opinion is, but you heard Darren. That's actually him, and that is his voice. That is the actual phone call when he made a phone call to me. You know, right after the McSpaden crash happened, I made a visit to the site. I actually went out there. I made a visit. Here's a couple video sections here. Here's me taking off on an airplane on the same runway, runway 32. I took off on this runway. Here's video footage of me lifting off right here on 32. I didn't do the impossible turn. I just kind of climbed straight up, but I wanted to know what the runway looked at. Now, let's take a look at Dan's site visit and what the occurrences that I went through as I climbed that hill and went to the spot. I'll show you the actual spot where Richard hit. He was in a descending right-hand turn. I think eventually his airplane fully stalled just before impact. How long before impact, we don't know, but probably not very far. He almost had runway alignment. The problem Richard had was that in that fixed gear airplane, he put the gear up initially. The gear stayed up until the point where he thought that he should lower the landing gear so he could make a wheels down landing on the runway. He threw the gear down. NTSB said that the gear was not down and locked. It was in transit. And if you know anything about the Cardinal, the nose gear is the most drag on that thing. As soon as you throw the gear handle to the down position, the nose gear comes out almost instantly. It's got that big, huge shield sheet thing, boilerplate thing on the front of the nose, blocking all that air. The drag off that gear coming down, I think, surprised him. He landed, actually he hit broadside into the side of that hill, flaps 10, gear in transit. He never added more flaps. Going to full flaps right there might have even ballooned him enough to give him the extra energy that he needed. He only hit 15 feet below the top of the ridge after he took off on 3-2, made a slight left-hand turn and then a slight right-hand turn. Let's take a look at Dan's visit to Lake Placid. The election to try to make this runway and put this airplane back on the ground, I believe, per AOPA policy on this photo shoot, they were in a photo shoot with a mission, probably an almost formation takeoff, getting this thing back in here. It was McSpaden in the right seat. Tragic loss of life. I'll show you the flowers memorial just up the hill here where they've left flowers in honor of the two men that lost their lives. October 1, 2023. This airplane hit hard. I almost think that they were in a little bit of a right-hand turn at the last second when they saw they could not make the runway. I think they tried to dispel their energy along this embankment here. Probably didn't work. The brunt impact of this impact going straight into this hillside did it. The tops of these trees that you can see right here are the ones that are broken. So the flight path was very low, out of energy, did not make it back to right here. If they could have made it back to this spot, they'd be alive today. That's how close it was. A really tragic shame on the whole thing. Revisiting the whole concept of should you turn back. The amazing thing is how much open space there is. Where they had their problem, they could have put this airplane gear up in a field anywhere out there, no problem. I just don't understand the urgency on getting it back gear down to a hard surface runway. Makes no sense to me. I hope that we can all learn something off of this tragic one. Our respects and condolences to all involved in this accident. I came out here to figure this out because I think we all deserve to know exactly what happened out here and how these two guys died. Both of them fairly experienced. If that can happen to them, it can happen to you. I'm telling you, don't turn this thing around. Don't place emphasis on getting your piece of garbage airplane back to this piece of garbage pavement. You don't need to do it. The insurance company owns that airplane. The instant that engine quits, put it down someplace, anywhere. Gear up in a field, open the door, and go to dinner. That's it. Crazy. The whole thing is just crazy how close they came to almost making it. You know, the other interesting thing is when Richard got hired at AOPA, it was on the web. He said he was F-16 pilot, 20 years with the Thunderbirds, 10,000 flight hours, all this credential. Well, I did a little bit of a deep dive and figured out what his actual credentials were and what his actual total time could have possibly been. I don't think it was anywhere near 10,000 hours. And if you notice in the NTSB records, they said that McSpaden's flight records could not be located. They don't have it. All they have is the information from his last medical that he reported 5,800 hours of flight time. Well, what does that mean? You can pick any number, pie in the sky, and write it down in your medical, and that's what goes on the paperwork. 5,800? Yeah, from where? Here's Dan's digital explanation of the Richard McSpaden history and where he went. And also, before I show you that real short clip, McSpaden was the flight lead for the U.S. Thunderbirds until he did his math error out west, and they did the famous maneuver where the guy ejected because they started the maneuver too low. McSpaden was the flight lead and the brief. He set the altitudes and he briefed all the altitudes. McSpaden made a math error. That guy started his loop too low. The guy had to punch out, and we lost an F-16. Fortunately, he survived it, but McSpaden immediately was done with Thunderbirds and ended up in a desk job in Washington, which is what the Air Force does when you really screw up big. That's a McSpaden math error. Let's go take a look at McSpaden's actual history and flight hours. You tell me, how many flight hours do you think McSpaden has? Richard was supposed to have 10,000 glorious flight hours when he started at AOPA in 2017, but here's his history. He was born in 1960. In high school, he was in high school from 73 to 79. That's his 4 high school years. Approximately about 400 hours of flying time. He started the U.S. Air Force in 1983. He did Air Force 83 to 2003, so he got his 20. He ended up with about 1,600 hours of F-15 and F-16 time. Then he went to Hewlett-Packard. From 2003 to 2017, he went to Hewlett-Packard, where he did not fly for Hewlett-Packard. He had a desk job in some other capacity. He may have flown a little on the outside, but nothing for Hewlett-Packard. Then in 2017, he shows up at AOPA with claiming 10,000 hours. I really question that. I'm not sure. At AOPA between 2017 and 2023, he may have accumulated 400 hours. That's a guess, but not a lot. They're mostly administrative. They don't fly a lot. They do fly a little bit, but probably 400 or 500 hours since 2017. How did Richard McSpaden end up with 10,000 hours? And Russ Francis is not an expert in a Cardinal. He inherited that Cardinal. Richard McSpaden is not an expert in a Cardinal. I don't know that Richard had ever even been in a Cardinal before. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind out here on this photo shoot. I don't think it's really fair to pin this entire thing on Russ, which is definitely the direction it's going to go. If AOPA has anything to do with it, they're going to absolve themselves of all responsibility because it's Russ's airplane. He's in the left seat and he's the pilot in command, and he did it. I don't think he did. AOPA is quick to point out that Russ Francis was left seat and was the PIC, which is true. Designated on paper, he's the PIC, but let's think about this. The AOPA people say that Russ Francis is going to be the PSC and the pilot flying for everything except the formation stuff. Now, McSpaden is a formation guy. Interesting to note that they do their taxi in formation. They roll out onto the runway in formation. They didn't quite make an element takeoff, but they made a formation takeoff, staggered left and right. That is a formation takeoff. Not necessarily element because the speeds are nowhere near. McSpaden was in a sick airplane with a sick engine. AOPA was in a Bonanza with a good running engine. The Bonanza ran away and left it, but I think they advanced throttles at just about the same time. That's a formation takeoff. McSpaden was in the controls for a formation takeoff. Let's listen to our friend at AOPA explain when AOPA is going to be operating the controls, and it does include anything to do with formation. A formation takeoff is a formation takeoff. McSpaden made that takeoff that day. This was Richard McSpaden in the right seat. These are my opinions and my opinions only. These are purely speculation, but from what I know of formation flying, the U.S. Air Force, the Thunderbirds, McSpaden would have been all over this formation takeoff. He's in the right seat. AOPA does make special exception to make it very clear, including paperwork, defining who the PIC is going to be specifically for this situation. Let's listen to AOPA talk about who's going to be PIC on this accident.
Russ was in the left seat and Richard was in the right seat. Now, typically on photo missions for AOPA, the owner of the subject airplane flies all phases of flight except for the formation portion of the photo shoot.
The other thing to note here is that the engine quit while they're taxiing out. This is obviously a sick airplane and a sick engine. The engine actually stops and shuts down, and they had to restart it, but they press on anyway. The report for the DTSB says that the airplane was out of CG. It was forward CG. McSpaden, how come you can't take one quick look and do the math on CG and figured out this airplane is too far forward on the CG? You made an illegal takeoff. Over gross and out of CG is completely illegal. Either and or both doesn't matter. Out of CG is illegal. Both of you should have known you're making an illegal takeoff with 1 inch, that's a full inch forward of max forward CG on that Cardinal, and they went ahead and took off anyway. When they took off, The engine did not sound right. It didn't make power. They had plenty of opportunity to reject, and they did not. They did not use any rejected takeoff criteria. They pressed on anyway, even though they knew that engine is not right and it's not producing power. This is AOPA. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable that they pressed on and committed to putting that airplane in the air. As soon as it's in the air, they know that they've got a problem. McSpaden comes back on the radio. He's the pilot flying, and he's got his finger on the push to talk, and he tells Hirschman, who's flying the Bonanza, we got a problem, and we're coming back. It's all in the NTSB report. Now they come around, and they're going to make this right-hand turn. The interesting thing is, here's the flight path that should have been briefed. In all their briefing that AOPA says that they did, they never briefed an emergency straight-ahead field that would have worked. I'm going to show it to you where it is here. Just off the end of the field is this east-west road, kind of northwest-southeast road in the middle of a cemetery, 500 feet long. Here's where you're going to put it. Gear up, full flaps into this road. They would have been alive today. That would have been my emergency field, especially if I had the heads up that I'm operating a sick airplane that's just coming out of maintenance with known previous problems. I got to have a place to go. If this airplane takes off and turns even sicker, I'm going to go straight ahead, full flaps, leave the gear up, and I'm going to land in this cemetery, and I'm going to slide it to a stop on its belly. That's what's going to happen. If you absolutely have to get this photo mission done and you're going to take a chance on putting it in the air, you better have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. AOPA did not. In the medical report, it showed that McSpaden was also on some kind of a drug. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what that drug is. But if you look at the report, it has to do with Flomax or something like that. I'm not sure how inhibiting or what the medical ramifications or FAA limitations are on being on that drug, but that was found in his bloodstream. That's just one more element that makes the entire thing even more bizarre. The airplane was flown less than DMMS. It tried to turn around and it didn't make it. My conclusion off of this is that we have a tremendous amount of information to learn, and we need to be able to speak the truth. I'm going to look straight at the camera. I'm going to look straight at you and tell you the truth. This is bizarre. This is AOPA Air Safety Institute. This is McSpaden that's dead. And this is Mike Ginter, wrong way, Mike Ginter, that flew the wrong way, wrong pattern, did everything wrong on the Fisk arrival going into AirVenture. This is Mike Ginter talking about Richard McSpaden as if he's a hero. I don't see anything proper about the entire event, and you guys are spending dues money to be a member of this organization with a president that lives on the West Coast and telecommutes to D.C. I'm not understanding, folks. I'm just not understanding. All right, I'm going to finish this video up. Here's one more excerpt from AOPA's Mike Ginter video that I just found astounding, and then I got to get this video up and on the air for tonight.
Advisory circular is also good to review, which says instructors should train pilots of single-engine aircraft not to make a 180-degree emergency turn back to the field after an engine failure.
As for the FAA, they caution that CFIs should train single-engine pilots not to attempt to turn back.
In this short excerpt of the reality check video, please listen to Richard's own words as he emphasizes the conditions when a pilot in command should attempt this challenging maneuver.
Our takeaway is that turning back is a viable option.
I appreciate your support. You guys in the chat room, appreciate you guys hanging in here. Make sure you type in the chat room where you're checking in from and all that stuff. Last week we had 1,000 in the chat room. Right after this, in just a second, I'll put that Sarah Guthrie guitar thing on there. You know, I love playing guitar. That's one of the big benefits of being a pilot, a musician, and all the stuff that I get to do, travel the country. I get to meet the coolest people, hang out with the coolest people. I'm old, fat, and ugly and not that cool, but every now and then I get to hang around with some really cool people, some really great musicians, and play some really fun music. That's one of the little perks of getting to do what I do, and I totally enjoy it. I hope you'll put up with my guitar playing here at the very end with Sarah Guthrie from my tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel, Dan Gryder. Probable cause. On her own right, but her father is Arlo Guthrie, her grandfather Woody Guthrie. Long history here, and I have to tell you, I grew up listening to your dad's stuff, and I've heard the Guthrie Girls, a few of those tunes. Some of that stuff is really cool, but it's an honor to get to sit in the same bar stool with you guys. And we want to play a quick tune off of her tour. She's out here on the road. I'm going to publish her tour schedule where she's going. This is this is your dad's song, isn't it? That we're going to play?
No, it's my grandfather.
It's your grandfather's?
It's a Woody Guthrie song.
Yeah, but Arlo played it a lot, didn't he?
Sure.
Yeah. I think I heard it, the recording originally, the one that your dad did. But Alice's Restaurant, you know all that stuff. Arlo Guthrie. This is Sarah Guthrie, and then your sisters. You have the Guthrie Girls. You guys tour and stuff too. So
yeah,
totally fun. My friend Brian is the guitar player of the year. A man on the ukulele. You ought to hear this guy on the ukulele. So we're going to lay down a quick track here, and these guys are going to play. We're at Eddie's Attic in Atlanta, Georgia. Came here to hear these guys tonight, and had a chance to pull out a guitar and play this real quick. I think we ought to do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
PSC, here
All
we
right.
go. Oh, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round, just a wandering worker. I go from town to town, police make it hard wherever I do go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. My brothers and my sisters are stranded on this road. It's a high, dusty road, let a million feet of travel. Rich man took my home and he drove from my door. Now I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Oh, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. I'm just a wandering worker, I go from town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I was farming on shares, and always I was poor. My crop I laid into the bank of store. My wife took down and died, my own cabin floor. Now I ain't got no home in this world anymore. No, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. I'm just a wandering worker, I go from town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Again, Brian. Well, I've mine in your minds and I've got it in your phone. Oh, I've been working, mister, since the day that I was born. Now I worry all the time like I've never done before, 'cause I ain't got no home in this world anymore. No, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. I'm just a wandering worker, I go from town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Hey, say one more time. Now as I look around, it's mighty plain to see this wide, wicked world is such a funny place to be, where the gambling man is rich and the working man is poor. Oh, I ain't got no home in this world anymore. No, I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. I'm just a wandering worker, I go from town to town, and the police make it hard wherever I go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I ain't got no home in this world anymore.
All right, thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Very cool.
Sarah Guthrie, Brian Tremagard.
Last time it was Steve.
Steve.
Steve works.
Thanks for watching. Check out Sarah's tour schedule. These guys are totally awesome. Go buy a ticket, hear these guys play live wherever you're at.
Thanks.